Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs. I am Zach, and today I'm going to be reviewing the superhero flick Shazam. There will be minor spoilers, but I will be sure to let you know a little bit ahead of time, give you some chance to click away. So, without further ado, let's get on into it. Shazam is the best part of this film, hands down. It's such a joy to watch Zachary Levi bring this character to life, and he knocks it out of the park, and I'm very happy for him. He plays this sort of man-child that Shazam is with great energy and vigor, and it's just a blast to watch. Like I said, best part of the film here. Jack Dylan Grazer does a nice job in his role as Freddy, Billy's foster brother, who is an expert on all things superheroes. He brings some life and energy and fun to the role. He's very funny, and he's just a joy to watch. Right up there with Zachary Levi in this film. They both play their roles exceptionally well, and he's probably my second favorite part of the film. The relationship between Billy and Freddy is the strongest character dynamic that the film has to offer. Billy learns a lot from Freddy, and he grows from it, though the two don't always get along. They're polar opposites. One of them is a superhero, the other is a cripple. It can get a bit predictable and cliche at times, but generally this was a strong point for the film. Billy Batson's character arc is probably the most enjoyable part of the film. He's a non-committal foster kid who's looking for his real family at the beginning. He goes from kind of a jerk to being full of himself once he gets his powers to being humbled, and it's definitely rewarding to see him come out a better person by the end of the film. Very realistic, very much so what a teenage kid who magically gets powers would act. So it's a natural progression for his character, and hopefully this will lead to a more mature entry down the road if we get a sequel. I don't know what the DC Cinematic Universe is really doing right now. It's kind of all over the place. But hopefully we'll get a second one, and hopefully it will be more mature, a la kind of how Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban was a more mature entry prior to the previous two films. Kind of in that vein. More often than not, the jokes do land in this film. Shazam is a loose, campy superhero film, and it definitely knows it. Billy and Freddy supply most of the humor, and they do it effectively. There were some instances where a tense moment would be broken by a joke, but that's relatively forgivable for a film like this. Like any film, Shazam has its fair share of cons. Don't get me wrong, it's not a terrible film. It's just not 90% on Rotten Tomatoes good. My biggest issue with this film is that it's so cheesy. It's so campy. Yes, I get it. It's a kid who's a superhero, but man, they really just punch up the cheese, and I think the film suffers for that. I can't take it seriously at all. Nobody ever feels like they're in danger. It's just really lighthearted, and it's very different from any superhero movie that we've seen recently. Definitely the most campy superhero film I've ever seen. And like I said, I think it hurts the film. This goes in line with my previous point, but there is a lot of overacting in this film. Zachary Levi is guilty of this too, but he gets a pass. He does it in a believable and endearing way, and I was never taken out of the film because of him. It's kind of just Zachary Levi being Zachary Levi, and it works very well. Like I said, Billy Batson is not the problem with this film at all. However, Billy's foster siblings also do get a fair share of overacting. Some of the kids are relegated to mere stereotypes, and I get it, they're kids. They aren't always going to be the best actors in the world. My real issue comes toward the end of the film. Spoiler alert, I'll give you a few seconds here. When Billy's foster siblings all gain his powers and become a team of Shazamers? Shazamsters? Anyway, you suddenly get some of the most over-the-top and cheesy acting I've ever seen. It's cringy, and it's just a weird choice that I don't think the film had to make. The result is, well, essentially if you were to put The Wiggles or Yo Gabba Gabba or whatever the hell really young kids watch these days into a superhero film. If that doesn't sound too great to you, it's because it's not. It just essentially felt like I was watching a superhero movie made for 4-year-olds. Didn't enjoy it at all. It was probably my least favorite part of the film. Shazam, unfortunately, has a bit of a villain problem. The first scene of the film sets out to develop the eventual villain, Dr. Sivana. I thought, oh great, it seems like we're about to get a sympathetic and memorable villain. After all, I do appreciate a good villain. It's one of my favorite things in a film. But no. That first scene is about all the development Dr. Sivana gets, albeit rushed and poorly executed, as he's relegated to being a dull, evil guy with weak motivations for the rest of the film. He's about the only serious character in the film too, and he lacks any personality or charisma whatsoever. He's simply quite forgettable. His Seven Sin partners also aren't very interesting and are basically just used as his tools, despite the fact that they are apparently supposed to manipulate him. Here's to hoping that they do Black Adam more justice. He's probably my favorite Shazam villain, and Dwayne The Rock Johnson is set to play him. Not sure about the casting, but we'll see. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for now. Now, my next point involves a spoiler, so I'll give you a few seconds here. Toward the end of the film, we find out that Billy's mom intentionally allowed Billy to get lost, explaining that she simply wasn't ready to raise a kid and thought he would do better in foster care. This is ridiculous. There's simply no way that in this day and age the police wouldn't have been able to track her down. After all, birth certificates are a thing. Perhaps it could have been more believable if he had been a foster kid from a younger age, say a newborn. He could still try to find his mom, and it would be believable and realistic. I can suspend my reality for everything else in this film, but not this. Not this. Harkening back to the Seven Sins that I mentioned earlier, but their designs were very dull, monotone, uniform, uninspired to say the least. They could have done so much more with them. They could have got very creative. They could have been way more interesting, but they chose to kind of minimal effort it. All of them kind of had this gray, rocky texture to them. They looked like demons, but didn't necessarily resemble their Vice in every case. I know there were several that kind of did look like their Vice, but not all of them. They just could have done better very easily, and it would have been much more interesting. So in the end, I'm going to give this film a 5 out of 10. I thought that it was just way too campy and over the top, uninspired in some areas. They did nail Shazam. Billy Batson was great. The best part of the film by far, but unfortunately everything else was a bit weak and lacking. So if you've got kids, I'm sure they'd enjoy it. Take them to see this. If you're a Shazam fan, I'm sure you'll find things to enjoy out of this film. And it's a good $5 Tuesday film to watch. I wouldn't pay full price for it, although I did twice. So definitely check it out if you can get it cheap, or just wait until it comes out on Blu-ray or something, or maybe you can stream it, or God forbid, pirate it. So I will see you in the next one, folks. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Zach, and I will see you in the future. Bye!